Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. My name is Chef Johnny Hernandez, and I'm here at the HEB Culinary Academy for a second time, so I'm excited to be here. We're kicking off Hispanic Heritage Month, so it's an important time in our city, in our country, that allows us for the next 30 days to kind of shine the spotlight on all the contributions that Hispanic Americans have made on our country. So I think that there's no place in America quite like San Antonio, because it represents really that cultural crossroads for a lot of important traditions from Mexico and from our family, our heritage. We're a rich cultural city, so celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month in San Antonio is an exciting time for us, for our restaurants. You may know us from La Gloria and from the fruteria that's down the road here in Southtown. We just reopened as the Botanero, right? So those of you that know the fruteria, it's our fruteria by day, Botanero by night concept. We closed for a while for renovations, and right now we're all we're all about the Botanero. And I was tasting something earlier, so excuse me. So I invite you to the Botanero. It's an exciting reimagination of the space. When we opened our fruteria 8 years ago, all my energy went into creating what I felt was a neighborhood restaurant with fruit and salads and sandwiches and tortas and tostadas, right? To me, that's what fruterias in Mexico represented. And then it was in the evening a Botanero, right? Fruteria by day, Botanero by night. So what's exciting about our reopening of our fruteria is that it's more Botanero than fruteria. And we're open from 4 to 10. And then on the weekends, we stay open to midnight like a real Botanero, right? So Botaneros, it's kind of like small plates, like imagine a Spanish tapas bar, but it's small plates, and it's a concept where drink is as important as food. So you go to drink and eat, two things that I love. So that's our fruteria. So welcome those that have come back. We invite you back to our fruteria. Those of you who maybe have visited us at Burgerteca, so we have Burgerteca also. And then obviously, if you're traveling in Southwest or international flights, you'll see us at the airport. And we just reopened the fruteria after being closed at the airport for a very long time. And then we're at the AT&T Center and Toyota Field most recently. So we love our partnership with the soccer team, and the Spurs obviously is a big deal for us. The latest bit of news about our restaurants has to be Brooks. So we opened at Brooks at the beginning of the year, and we're so excited to take La Gloria to the south side. It has been years in the making. The Brooks team and the Brooks board have a vision to bring locals to local restaurants and local flavor to that culinary landscape. And there's enough national chains in that area, and the leadership felt we had to have some local brands. So we're excited to kind of plant our flag there on the south side at Brooks City Base. And a few months after we opened La Gloria, we're bringing back Machito. Those of you that remember Machito from the quarry, our 3 years at the quarry area, and it took me a while, but I had been wanting to bring Machito back for years, and I could not find the right location. So we have a beautiful spot next year, La Gloria and Machito. So those are the highlights of what we're working on. Of course, you see the margarita trucks everywhere. The pandemic kind of pushed us in different areas, and we innovated in a few different ways. And we realized that we had to take the drinks and the food to the customer. So we have 8 food trucks now. So it's pretty crazy. So the margarita trucks are a big part of our restaurants. They continue, and the La Gloria food trucks. We even put together a pizza concept in a truck where we were down there feeding the folks out at the Tesla facility out there close to Austin. So that's who I am. I'm very involved in the community. We have a very special family foundation dedicated to the youth called Kitchen Campus. And HEB has been a big part of that. You may remember, or maybe you've gone to the Paella Challenge, and we've had the Paella Challenge over the last 10, 12 years. And HEB has supported our foundation and our work for a long time. So we have Kitchen Campus as a community project on the west side where we mentor young people who want to pursue the culinary and hospitality degrees. So it is a special work, and we're excited to have HEB as a supporter for that special project. And I guess the last thing I'll say is we started working with HEB on a retail line with the fabulous team that Kevin Blessing has, and we were like cooking and delivering taco kits and chips and salsa to HEB a year and a half ago now, right? And so we're excited that partnership with HEB has continued to grow. We're in 20 stores. Our website, chefjohnnyhernandez.com, has all the 20 locations that we're in. And we've been working with the Meal Simple team, which is intense. They're like, we went through tastings, and they tasted our taco kits, and then the enchiladas we have now, and then we did a chicken tinga bowl, which is doing really well. And then we did quesadillas. So we have a beautiful line of products that our artist friend Eva Sanchez painted some of the taco kits. She did paintings that were part of our branding. So we're always trying to incorporate art into everything we do. Since it's Hispanic Heritage Month, I'm going to tell you that we are at the end of this Heritage Month. We start kind of celebration for Day of the Dead, which is a huge part of our local culture and an event that we celebrate at our restaurants. So our restaurants, as you know, are very focused on Mexican traditions, that are personal to me, my family, and it's something that we continue to get excited about exploring and learning. So everything we do, we say Mexico is our inspiration. And so I think, I feel like, that's what we represent, and that's what you're going to see and taste in our restaurants when you visit our restaurants. So today, I thought that appropriate for today's would be an iconic mole, right? Or moles. Let's say moles is one of those Mexican mother sauces. So we have a mole for you today, and we have a quesadilla, and then we have salsa macha. So three things that I think are synonymous really with San Antonio and even the U.S., right? Who doesn't know what a mole, who hasn't had a mole? There might be a few people that haven't. Who hasn't had a quesadilla? But salsa macha is kind of a new trendy salsa that I'll share with you a quick recipe on how to make salsa macha. So here at the HEB Culinary Academy, we have, there's a lot of classes, and Charlotte here, who's in front of me, is going to help me keep on track, make sure there's questions that you might have, the audience, so throw anything at me.
Absolutely. So if you guys, I'll answer questions in real time. I will ask your questions or relay your questions to Chef Johnny. We want to hear all of the things. If you're cooking with us at home, that'd be fantastic. We want to hear about that as well. And I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, man. Well, second time, so I'm maybe a little better than the last. I know where things are, maybe.
I think you are the most perfect person for this. You do so much in San Antonio, and you're so well known in San Antonio.
Wow.
And food is the great connector. It brings all people together, and I think that you are a wonderful person to share these recipes with us. I'm very excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me here. So let me just, let's dive into today's dishes. So both of these dishes are from the fruteria. Right, and we have the mole. It's a pistachio, so I'm making a pistachio pineapple mole, and we're searing a nice piece of salmon, beautiful piece of salmon with this mole. So mole. It's a pre-Hispanic dish, a pre-Hispanic sauce, really, and this is one of our versions. I think at Fruteria we're famous for it was our mole blanco, right? And I wanted to create a new mole that. I wanted something different for our guests, something, obviously use our creativity, the things that we love. And I created a mole with pistachios, pineapple. It has some golden peppers. It has onions. It has garlic. It has aromatics that I'll break down for you in a few minutes. So making mole is not one of the easiest things, but I think it's one of those iconic sauces that I thought for Hispanic Heritage Month would be appropriate to share. We are we're featuring it at the we're featuring at the fruteria at our botanero with salmon, right? So it is. I will tell you that most everything that you see here, you'll find at HEB. Maybe the hoja santa is one of the things that maybe we identified that might not find in the herb aisle, but a great substitute would definitely be maybe fennel, a little bit of fennel, because this is going to be in our quesadillas, right? And it's going to be a garnish for our final presentation, right? So we're going to, and I know you have the recipe, so we're going to use for our mole, gold peppers, onions, a little habanero, we have garlic, and I'm going to add a little pineapple, and I have, I'm going to do, let's do 4 tomatillos. And I'm looking for 4 tomatillos about the same size. Okay?
So like the size of a golf ball, maybe?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, size of a golf ball. And the key, because if they get too big, when we get to the next step, you'll see the challenge, okay, because this dish, you want it to cook. You want it to cook evenly, but the tomatillos will be the last thing that will be cooked, or at least in terms of doneness. So if the tomatillos are too big, it may be challenging for the cooking of this. So
and you won't get that smooth consistency when you go to puree.
So puree, yep, exactly.
I have tried mole in the past, and from talking to you during our run through, there's so many different types of mole, and like you said, it's just a mother sauce. So you said something earlier, like while we were doing our run through, you said where mole is complicated, right? But everything in a mole needs to balance each other out, right? Which I thought was beautiful. And typically the moles that I've seen, the moles that I've practiced, have some sort of chocolate or like cocoa in that.
Right.
And this one is different.
Well, I think the original moles that that I think they predate Spanish, the arrival of the Spanish. So the word mole or moli is Nahua, right? It's a native, and it means sauce. But the sauce cacao was the base of those earliest moles that were made, right? If you travel through Mexico today, probably Oaxaca and Puebla will be the 2 destinations in Mexico where you're going to taste some of the most incredible moles, right? If you go to the little beautiful village of Jico, Veracruz, it's one of those pueblo mágicos, Jico, Veracruz, and that's one of our moles at La Gloria comes from Jico. But Oaxaca has amazing moles, right? They have mole negro, coloradito. I think at Fruteria we have coloradito. So there's mole rojo, there's manchamanteles, mole de olla. So moles are I would say that Puebla and Oaxaca, right, are the 2 cities in Mexico that are famous for moles. This pineapple is so sweet. You can smell it probably from here.
I'm watching your technique, and it's beautiful for cutting a pineapple. I love it. And you picked a beautiful one. It's like so perfectly yellow.
It's good, smells delicious. So, okay. So these are the products, these are the ingredients that I'm going to take to the stove in just a few minutes. So I'm not jumping around. I'm going to do a little bit of chopping, and then I'll move to the stove for the cooking of this first step of our mole. Okay, so onions, tomatillos, whole, right? We have the pineapple. There's a few garlics running around in there. I did half of a habanero, right? The habaneros are very spicy, all right? So you got to be careful with adding too much spice because, like Charlotte mentioned, the mole is, the goal of a great mole is to be balanced, right? There should not be a singular item that really dominates the profile of your mole, right? So keep that in mind if you experiment with a mole, that it has to be, it needs to harmonize all those ingredients, right? Nothing should, because a lot of the moles have, whether it's cacao or clove or anise or allspice, some of these spices are very pungent.
Yes.
And it's very easy to over-spice a mole or overdo it with peanuts, right? Because nuts, sesame seeds, some of these are very, very pungent ingredients. So balance is key.
I also, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
But I also think it's really interesting that in my mole experience, which is very limited, I have to say, it was lots of dried chilies and very heavy. And this seems very light and very like...
Well, I mean, that's probably one of the misunderstandings of mole, right? I really, I feel that moles, and just really quick, we're making the salsa macha.
Ah, yes.
Okay, so salsa macha, dried chili, and I'll tell you all about it. But really quick, on moles real quick, it's like if you travel to Mexico and enjoy a mole, it's very light. It's a light sauce. I mean, it's not heavy in any way. I mean, I've never tasted a heavy mole in Mexico, okay? So I think that our technique, in America is not spot on.
Yeah.
Okay? And I mean, again, it takes practice, right? Like we said, a great mole takes practice. So I'm gonna switch to the salsa macha.
Yep.
Just to break down the ingredients. So if you've not had salsa macha,
our mise en place. We're getting our mise en place.
Yeah, we're getting our mise en place. If you've not had salsa macha, it is a combination of dried chilies. Okay. In this case, we're going to use ancho, we're going to use guajillo, and we're going to use a few chile de árbol. Okay. That's the heat. All right. So I have onion. We have white onion. We have garlic. I probably have a little too much onion. It's, I mean, I know you have a recipe, and I think the recipe is a great guide, but sometimes recipes will say 1 onion. Well, there's all sizes of onions, right? So, I always tell my team, like, you have to taste it. The recipe is merely some parameters and a guide. And I'll tell you real quick. So these are beautiful chile anchos. I have some peeled here, okay, or seeded, I should say. Right, so, but this one is really soft and pliable, right? So look at that. I'm going to use these, so are these on the bottom, okay? So you want a chile ancho that's soft and pliable, okay? This garlic, onions, I'm going to put 2 chile anchos in here. I'm looking for the best one. That's a nice one. So we have chile ancho, and then, guajillos, right? Guajillos are so mild. So chile ancho, right? It's a poblano pepper that's dried. Guajillo is like a chile güero, or let's say an Anaheim pepper that's dried, right? So let's add, these are the guajillos, right? Really thin skin. Make sure you get all the seeds out. There's a few in there. So we're going to add a few chile guajillos. So all of these are going to go to the stovetop. Okay, here's a pretty one. All right, the aroma. I mean, you want chilies that are not brittle. They shouldn't be dry, or they should be pliable. All right, I'm going to do 3 chile de árbol, right? We leave the seeds. Chile de árbol is the only chili, the only dried chili that Mexico will use with the seeds, in case you were wondering. Every other chili, the seeds are removed. Just simple.
Is it because of the texture, or like what it does to the, is it bitter?
I would say it's the flavor,
okay.
Right? It's the flavor of the seeds are, but it's also used as it's one of the hotter chilies.
Yeah.
Right? And the seeds have a lot of that heat.
Yes.
So I think it's a tradition, but I think it's, when you're using anchos and guajillos, you want the flavor of the chili, not the heat. When you use árbol, you want the heat. So,
I like it.
But it's the only chili that Mexicanos you'll see them leave the seeds in, okay? So just a simple thing that some smart lady told me a long time ago in Mexico.
These are the moments, these are the nuggets that like I hold on to as a chef. Like someone would, like the fact that you told me this, I'll never leave the seeds in again, except the chili arbol. I love
chili
it.
arbol. So right here, so the key ingredients for a salsa macha, right? Dried chilies, onions and garlic, a lot of olive oil, and then peanuts. Okay, so peanuts, we will add the peanuts to the very last stage of maybe the sauteing. Okay, so we're prepping our mise en place. So the next thing that I'm gonna prep is for our quesadilla. Okay, so we at our botanero, at our fruteria, we use shiitake mushrooms. I love the flavor of shiitake mushrooms. They're not Mexican, right? But they are the best for this dish, right? So we have our quesadillas that we make. And the one thing about a quesadilla that I want to just explain, this was kind of an aha moment for me in Mexico probably, I don't know, 15 years ago. I'm sitting at a street side vendor. A lady was there with her daughter making quesadillas. Well, there was a big sign that said quesadillas, right? So it said quesadillas, and then there's chicken or deshebrada, and it's like a little chalkboard. And I grab my seat. It's on the side of the road, and I'm looking, and I'm like, man, I don't see the tortillas, and I don't see the comal, right? Because, right, we're used to having quesadillas in a folded tortilla. So I'm like, I tell the lady, I'm like, where are the quesadillas, or where are your tortillas? She goes, well, what do I need? I don't need tortillas. I mean, quesadillas are made with masa, right? And and I started really thinking about it, and I didn't realize that the original quesadilla is just a folded masa, which we're going to do in a little while, with fillings, different fillings and cheese. And silly me, I was looking for a comal, and I was looking for cold tortillas, right? Because I'm thinking like an American that doesn't know anything about Mexican food.
I love this story. I love this story. And it's so interesting how like...
She's like, what do you mean, where's my quesadilla? I was like, oh, they're right here. And they, because it looks like an empanada.
Yeah.
It looks like an empanada. So our quesadillas at our botanero, at our fruteria, are all made to order. And we fold our quesadillas. When the customer orders, we have tinga, we have mushroom. We're also making some with pork belly now and stuff. So the quesadillas are popular, and they're delicious. And
so I noticed you removed the stems of the shiitake.
Ah, yes. So yes, the stem of the shiitake, and the reason we use shiitake is because it has such a rich, deep flavor, right? So the stem is just tough. So you want to just pop off the bottom of you want to just pop the stem off the cap here. And this is all you need, okay? This is this is a beautiful one here, right? So that pops right off. I mean, you could use a button mushroom if you wanted. You could use some oyster mushrooms, but this works so well. And we put a little bit of hoja santa. We put a little bit of hoja santa and garlic, okay? So this hoja santa, it grows like mad at my house, okay? Because I have a forest of hoja santa at my house. And they call it, in America, they call it root beer plant.
That's what I was saying. You called it something different.
Yes, it's so it has a mild anise herbal flavor, and it works beautifully with our quesadillas. Okay, so this hoja santa, I just cut the stems off, and I'm just gonna chiffonade it. Just a kind of julienne chiffonade, right? Just a leafy. If you wanted to substitute something for it and you really wanted to, I would recommend maybe some shaved fennel.
Okay.
I think that, you could use a little cilantro.
Okay.
The idea, was to add a little flavor, a little depth to the filling, right? And because I have a forest of hoja santa.
And where did you get your plant originally? Did somebody...
Man, that's a good question. Where did I get that hoja santa? I don't want to say. I think I remember.
Okay,
I stole the cutting I'll say.
I mean, you're safe now.
Dwight at the Liberty Bar, if he heard me, there was like, he has like a massive hoja santa at the Liberty Bar. And I'm like, just like clip a little leaf off of there, you know. He's not gonna know anyway. But it grows like a weed.
Okay.
It grows like a weed. So we have shiitakes, we have a little hoja santa, and I'm gonna slice this garlic. Okay, fresh garlic. There's nothing like fresh garlic, okay? So this will be the filling for our quesadilla. We have a special treat today because Flor in our molino made some blue corn masa for me. So we'll press some blue corn in a little while for our quesadilla.
And you were telling me that you source all of your corn from local growers in
central Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, so we Texas is a great growing area for corn. Okay, they grow a lot of white corn and yellow corn. So central Texas is a great, we have there are several growers in Lacoste area that we've worked with, the Calapo family out of Castroville, and then in the immediate area there's a lot of growers. And they're growing organic corn, which is amazing.
Yes.
Right? The market wants organic and non-GMO. So there are some growers locally that are doing organic non-GMO corn. And then from central Mexico, we'll bring in like blue corn, red, there's purple, right? So some of these corns, there's several co-ops that we've gone down there to visit.
Yeah.
And they're working on preserving and growing heirloom varietals of corn, right? So we work with local growers, and then we work with growers down in central Mexico to bring, corn that we're not familiar with. Their texture is different, the flavor is different.
Okay.
Mostly texture. Texture is probably the biggest difference between corn. The texture, earlier when I was feeling this blue corn, I'm like, wow, the texture is so different. Again, cooked up nicely. So I did a little test.
I got to taste it.
I did a little test.
It was delicious.
So we have, so what I'll do is I'm gonna move over to the stove, and we'll take all these things over there so I can start cooking up. I gotta keep track of time. I know we have an hour. So we have our mole.
Okay.
Our salsa macha.
Yep.
And then we're going to take the things that we need for
So while you're
mushroom.
moving over to the stove, we have a couple of questions. One, could epazote be used in the quesadilla? Is that an option?
Nice. That's a great suggestion.
Okay, that was from one of our viewers on Facebook. So yes, and then somebody wants to know where you learned all of your cooking skills.
Where I learned all my, cooking skill. I've had a lot of great teachers, but my best teacher probably my dad. Grew up in my dad's kitchen, and that was my introduction into culinary and kitchens was my dad's restaurant. So that's definitely, but I'm also a good observer, so I've observed a lot of talented chefs over the years. So right here, we have I'm gonna put a little fire. We have pineapple, golden peppers, right? We have the onions.
And that's our...
This is our mole.
Our mole base, great.
So I'm going to, I want to cool this pan off a little bit. I want to see how hot it is. It's all right.
That's a safe way to test it.
Just want to make sure it wasn't too hot. I don't want to scorch anything. So this will be our salsa macha. Okay.
And you're just using olive oil right now, right?
Yep, olive oil.
Okay.
So we'll add, you know what I want to do? Let me do this first. I want to do the onions a little bit first, okay? So let me do my onions and garlic. Oops, I lost an árbol. I left my garlic whole, okay?
Okay.
So we'll do a little bit of onions, and I'm going to saute the onions and garlic a little bit, then I'll throw the dried chilies because you don't want to scorch those, okay? Okay, so Let's let those cook a little bit. All right. And then we have our mushrooms. So we're going to just get everything cooking. All right. So we have our mushrooms. I'll saute those up. This is just, you know, some nice olive oil provided by H-E-B. All right. So I'm going to go with the mushrooms first. Okay. A little bit of heat. We'll cook these shiitakes down. So I want to get all this done in an hour, okay? So that's the only reason I'm cooking everything at once.
You're doing a great job, and you can't see what that shot looks like, but from that overhead camera, what's happening on the stove looks amazing. It looks very choreographed.
Okay.
All right. It's amazing.
So we'll cook up our mushrooms. I have a little bit of time. I have a little oil here, okay? That oil is going to be for our the frying of our hoja santa, which is a garnish for the salmon mole, and then we'll fry our quesadilla in there in a few minutes. So, okay. I'm going to continue to saute this. I want, like I said, the key to this mole is cooking these tomatillos, okay? So I learned this at home because this is where I was when I was experimenting. I was trying to make it easy for my team to remember how to cook it, right? Because it's one thing for me to be able to whip it together, but I can't make every mole every day. So I'm always thinking of them because they are the ones who really make it happen. You know, right now we have Chef Carlos at our fruteria, and then, you know, a lot of recipe development has gone into the opening of that restaurant. So just a little bit of salt. We're going to hit it with just a little bit of wine, a little acidity, right? We'll cook it down till it dries out to sec.
Dinner and a show.
What? Because you really want, you know, your filling, no matter what quesadilla you're making, you want that filling to be, you know, to be dry. If it's too wet, it's going to be challenging to make that quesadilla. Okay,
that makes sense.
So your filling needs to be nice and dry, and these mushrooms will dry out in just a few seconds. Okay. Maybe what we'll do is I can probably let that mole continue to go, and then maybe we'll get that salsa macha done.
It smells amazing in here.
Well, you know, onions, garlic, mushrooms, chilies. Gosh, you can't beat it, right?
So now you're adding the dried chilies, and this is the base for the salsa macha.
Salsa macha. Yep. So this is going to be a simple blender version, you know, of salsa macha. Okay.
And, you said something earlier about like what salsa macha meant, like, or were you just making a joke?
You know, I mean, I'll tell you one thing is consistent about Mexico, right? You'll never know the true story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, because everybody thinks they invented everything, and every community I've been to, they're like, no, we were the first ones to make that. We were the originators of that sauce or that dish. So, I mean, don't even get started with who made the first mole, right?
Right, so it's like Austin and San Antonio with who had the first breakfast taco.
Right.
Okay.
Similar. Oh my God. Yep, that's what it is. Okay, so we added our dried chilies. I'm gonna add the peanuts. Just, you know, these are already roasted, okay? So they really don't need a whole lot of cook time, but, you know, if you had raw peanuts, you know, you would allow them to cook up a little bit, okay? I'm gonna add some water, okay?
We did have a question about why you did not chop up the chilies.
Well, we're gonna blend them.
Okay.
We're gonna blend them, so it'll really do what we want it to do, right? In other words, instead of chopping it. So, oh, you know what? Hoja Santa. I gotta saute this down just for a few seconds.
Okay.
All right, almost
So if you were adding in the fennel, that shaved fennel, would this be a good time to do it, or would you saute them
Yes, I would say the fennel, you probably need to add it along with the mushrooms to cook it down. Fennel, I'm adding a little bit of the thyme and the oregano go in the salsa macha.
Okay.
Not in the. So yes, I think that the fennel, if you add fennel, you want to do that really around the same time. I would make sure your fennel's shave it really thin. Yeah, thin. So our matcha has a little bit of herbs in it, okay? Thyme and oregano, not a bunch. All right, we're gonna cover this up. We'll let those chilies, and we're going to properly saute our
And you have
mushroom.
plenty of time, Chef. You have...
okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
I need like a stopwatch. No. So anyway, there you go. See that beautiful color? You know, a little bit of that light, super light anise flavor in that hoja santa. We're going to saute our salmon here in a little while. Okay, so let's, let me pull this out of the pan. We want our filling to cool off a little bit.
Okay.
Right? This is the filling for our quesadillas. Let's look at our mole. I do like some caramelization.
All right.
A little bit of color, you know. I think a little color is good, but I'm trying to get these tomatillos cooked, so I'm leaving the lid on, and then I'll pull it off. I'll pull it off maybe in a few minutes. That way, and then we'll add, what we're gonna add are the nuts, the dates, the pistachios, with the sesame, the pine nuts, and the dates. We'll add those kind of in that last step. Okay. So we can feel our chilies are getting pliable. This is steaming up nicely. We did caramelize the onions and the garlic a little bit. Okay. Lightly added our herbs. I'm gonna let these anchos cook a little bit more. I'm probably gonna add a little more water. I wanna make sure that those are nice and pliable when we puree them, okay? So we'll let that saute.
I'm gonna start using the lids at my house now. I think they're in a drawer somewhere and I never use them.
Well, you know, I mean, for some applications, yes.
Yeah.
They come in handy. So what do you think? Let me do this while I'm here. I'm watching this. This will be.
I've got an eye on your stove. I can look as well.
Okay, we'll keep it. Let me switch over here. Let's get our masa, because I think our matcha needs a few minutes, and our mole needs a few minutes. So let me start getting our masa ready. Okay. So this will go into our mole in just a few minutes. Let me talk about. I'll explain this jarabe real quick. That's going to go into the mole. And on the recipe, you have agave, like an agave nectar. That's part of the mole and the salmon, right? Like I said, you can use different kinds of seafood. This jarabe, right? This syrup is something that we make at the restaurant, and I promise you, if you go to the H-E-B on Nogalitos, you will find all these things there, because that's where I got them. All right, so you have piloncillo. They had saffron.
Okay.
They had cardamom. We have cumin, peppercorns, right? Black peppercorns and allspice. So all of these aromatics, we cooked them down with just water to make our syrup. Okay. So it's an extra step. Okay, and it's worth it. And I also talked earlier, we use this actually in our cocktails. So it's like it acts also as a simple syrup or as a sweetener for different things. But this, I mean, you can smell the allspice, you can smell the cardamom, the saffron. And that's really adds another layer of flavor to that mole, right?
We talk about that a lot in cooking, and that like the more comfortable you get with cooking and in recipes, it's really all about layering in those flavors, right?
Let me come over here real quick.
So we talk a lot about like in our classes that the more comfortable you get in cooking or with cooking with recipes and ingredients, that truly it's layering in these ingredients, and as you layer in them and you build this flavor. And so the way you're caramelizing the onions and the garlic before you pure everything. It's a layer of flavor, right?
You know, I mean, that adds to the dish for sure.
Yes.
I mean, you can begin to see the caramelizing here, right? You can start seeing the browning of everything, and that, I mean, again, that's another just note of flavor that the sugars, right? You're browning the sugars in all of these ingredients, and you're intensifying it through dehydration, but through caramelization, right?
So I do have a question. If I wanted to have those flavors from the Jarabe, could I, but I didn't want to make the syrup, could I add those aromatics into my mole on the stove?
Well, you know, I don't want to you know, these are, you know, they look very common to me, right? Yes. But again, that's why I kind of said, you know, the agave, I think agave nectar is a good substitute. But if you love to explore and test, try different things, you know, all this is, our recipe is like 4 piloncillos, 2 cups of water, and then these aromatics, right? So all we do is we lightly toast them.
Yep.
Just lightly toast them in the sauce pot.
Yep.
Then we add the piloncillo, chunks of it, and then water. And then that cooks down to this syrup consistency. But you know what it is? It really plays to that layering of flavors that moles are famous for, right?
And so, I think you were talking about earlier in our run-through, you were talking about how you drizzle that on the salmon itself and sort of glaze it. And I feel like you did provide us with that recipe. It would be very easy to cut that recipe in half if you were doing this at home. I'm totally gonna make it.
Yeah. What was the last thing you said?
Oh, I'm totally gonna make this recipe. I have it. I have it.
All right.
And it would be very easy to cut in half.
So we're going to the blender. Let me just get it out of this hot pan here. So here's our salsa macha. Okay. Put that over here. And then here's our mole. Look at that. This is a nice heavy duty pan here, okay? I can't believe how fast it cooked. And you got good burners here.
Oh my gosh, they're like...
So let's put these, we're gonna move over to the blender. And then we have all our nuts. I'm going to, let me see. The only thing I wanna do is, I'm gonna do this real quick. If I had maybe a bigger surface, I could have put all the nuts in there and toasted them a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was in something wider. So I'm just gonna lightly toast all of these, okay? In that same pan, a little olive oil. Okay, so, and you have to be careful. I think the easiest mistake to make when you're making a mole is too much nuts. It's very easy to put too many peanuts, or, you know, whether you're using peanuts or whether you're using pecans. I think peanuts are some of the most common, okay? It's very easy to put too much. So sometimes you're blending and then you're adding, right? You're blending and you're adding. All right, so I'm gonna turn that off. I'm gonna put a few dates.
And dates are for sweetness and
for sweetness,
yeah.
Textural, texture, sweetness.
Yeah.
You know, because you see, there's there's dried fruit. Dry fruit in some, whether it's plantains, whether it's raisins. Dry fruits are a very common ingredient in a mole. So the truth is, I was walking by them at the HEB and they just jumped out at me. I'm like, wow, those are beautiful Turkish dates. And I grabbed them from my recipe.
You and Scott Tompkins, he talks about dates. Last class we had, he was like, I'm all about dates right now. I have a quick question. One of our viewers wants to know if they could roast the mole ingredients in the oven.
Sure.
And if so, what temperature would you suggest?
You know, I mean, roasting in the oven is not a problem. I think, I love the way I mean, I love the way things cook down in the oven, right? So, you know, probably just coating them with oil. If it's a conventional oven, you know, not a convection oven, you know, I think 350 degrees is safe. But I think that, you know, I like the way vegetables roast in an oven a lot of times. You could, you know, you save a lot of calories because you don't use as much oil if you're trying to be careful with calories. But I mean, I think it's a matter of preference.
Yes.
Some people are comfortable roasting things in an oven, and I think that's smart. You know, I always tell people, let me grab my spoon, I'm sorry. I always, people ask, I don't know where I was, but I mean, you know, I do demonstrations, and people ask, you know, how do you do it, or what would you do? And I'm like, the best thing to do when you're experimenting or cooking is to do things that build on what you're already comfortable doing.
That's
right?
really
So
good advice.
If you're comfortable roasting things in an oven, then use that technique, right? Use that technique, and that is what you know, you build on. Because I think a lot of times people are worried or scared to ruin something, right? Let me make sure I have everything in here, right? We have our nuts, we have our spices. Hi, I just noticed something, but we have everything in the mole. All right, let's, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Do I need it? All right, let me stir this up a bit. We have to check.
I'm so excited to eat this.
Let me bring the salt.
That's something that I noticed. I did notice you salt the pan at first. Did you salt the vegetables that were in that pan first, or did you salt later?
Later,
Okay.
yeah, for this at least.
Because it reduces, so it could get saltier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. This has to go longer for sure. All right, sorry about that. Okay, let's see.
So the consistency that we're looking for after we blend is?
Well, I mean, again, this is let me taste this real quick. I mean, the only thing I'm able to fix here is salt at this point, because I ground all the nuts.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Is that a good?
Yeah,
is that
good.
a good? Ooh.
Yes, it's good. There's maybe just I'm going to add just a touch of, maybe just a little bit of water. I mean, it's a little thick, but.
Can you slide that bowl up a little bit so the people at home can see what that looks like?
I'm going to put it right there.
Oh my gosh,
there.
okay.
Okay, it's a little thick, but it'll work.
Okay.
I mean, maybe a little bit of water would make it. I have some there. I have some water, and we'll stir it a little. We'll stir a little bit in a few minutes. So, all right. So this is our salsa macha.
And for this salsa, is this normally served room temperature, hot, cold?
Well, salsa macha usually always room temp.
Okay.
Yep. And moles a lot of times are not served hot either. They're served at room temp.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of moles are. It's rare that you get one that's hot.
You know, it's so interesting when you taste something at room temperature, how many different things you can taste.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, it is, again, it's not uncommon, room temp, a lot of sauces in Mexico, right?
Really?
So salsa macha, let's see. Let me get that. I could use oil, but maybe a little oil and water. That way it's not too heavy. Our salsa macha at the restaurant it's emulsified.
Okay.
You know, because if you go have salsa macha, I'm not drinking out of this, okay? Just if you have salsa macha at a restaurant in Mexico, it's going to be really coarse, and the oil will be separated.
Okay.
Right, so it's not emulsified the way we serve it. So
okay.
Yeah, just. Get a spoon. So salsa macha, we have our mole. We have to make our quesadillas. Let me just...
You have plenty of time.
I'm going to tell you that, again, these sauces that have dried chilies and nuts are tricky to make, okay? And it's like, you know, I mean, it's, again, the recipes are meant to be a guide, and it's to get some of these flavors down when you're combining chilies and nuts. It's, you know, it's not like if you're baking something, right?
Yeah.
If you're baking something, you scale things off, you measure things. You know, cooking is not the same, right? Especially when you're making something like a mole, right? Our matcha.
There's something wonderful about watching someone cook recipes that they're so familiar with. It's almost like like watching a musician or listening to a musician play a piece of music that they wrote. Like it just kind of like flows through you or from you. It's so great.
Well,
and you're
I
like
try.
A dash of this, a taste of this. It's fantastic.
Let me just taste this. Well, I guess I can adjust the salt in here, but this is our matcha. But again, this is a creamy matcha, which this is the way we serve it in the restaurant. And, you know, I'm not obviously measuring anything, but I think I did pretty good. It actually, you know, like I said, it can, the peanuts can really take over a dish.
So when you're tasting it, what are you looking for right now? Like, what are you tasting?
Onions, you know, garlic. I mean, a lot of times I think when you're making this sauce at home, the way they teach you to make mole, you have everything separate, and then you're building your sauce. I'm doing it faster.
Okay.
I'm doing it faster.
Yes.
Because I've done it a few times.
Yes.
But a proper mole really is done, you toast everything, you roast everything, you have your broth, and you know, and you're blending it. Or you're doing it on a metate, right, in Mexico, and you're adding and you're tasting it as you're making it, right? So I'm making it, as you would say, kind of on the fly, right?
Yes, but I love that. I love that that's how, like, what an exercise in mindfulness, right? Like, you'll taste it, what does it need? It needs salt. Taste it, it needs more sesame. Taste it, it needs more sweet. I love it.
So then I added just a little bit of that agave, it would be agave, right? Okay, so we have two more things to do, right? We have to assemble our quesadillas.
Yep.
We have our sauces here, mole, and that. So we have a beautiful piece of salmon, right? I'm going to get this cutting board out real quick. This is a Scottish salmon. We use Scottish salmon or Faroe Island salmon at the fruteria. It is, you know, it's sashimi grade fish, and you know, I don't. We really strive there to use the best ingredients. Okay. You know, I mean, we have a lot of seafood on the menu. We have a lot of ceviches.
Okay.
So we really are particular about the seafood that we're using for, you know, for these dishes. So we have, you know, we have a couple different suppliers that, you know, are helping us with fresh seafood. So like all our ceviches, you know, we have pulpo, tostadas de pulpo and ceviches. All of them, you know, are super fresh and super high quality. Because a lot of the fish, I'm wanting to make it kind of sashimi. We're presenting it kind of in a sashimi fashion. Okay. Right, so the last thing is assembling the quesadilla, right? So again, to my point is just if we serve that salmon dish medium rare, customer, I want them to know that, hey, we're using super fresh product that is safe.
Yes.
All right, so we'll assemble some quesadillas the authentic way, right? Which is in the masa. We have our Oaxaca cheese. We have our mushrooms. I don't know. Again, we have different fillings, these quesadillas. I would say that you want to be using about 1.5 ounces. I don't know if, I know that we have maseca there, or a corn dry flour that is a fair game because not everybody's going to have stone ground blue corn handy.
Okay, I have to ask, so we talked about this also. I am not very good at pressing the tortillas.
Well, I just messed up too.
Oh, I jinxed you. I feel like I jinxed you.
But it's okay, I'm gonna fix it.
It's the amount, like, I don't know, like the right amount of pressure. And I feel like the first one is always like a pancake, right?
Well,
it comes out.
Well, I've not used this. This is from H-E-B, right? It's, what do you call this? The cocina?
The cocina-ware, I believe.
Cocina-ware.
Yeah.
It's heavier than the one I'm used to, so you got to get used to it. Okay, so just a few mushrooms.
I do feel a little bit better knowing that.
A little bit of the shredded cheese. Yeah, I've messed it up. But for a quesadilla, yeah, no one will know. It's not a tortilla, right, where you can see all the... So there's a quesadilla, see how simple that is? It takes a lot of practice. You know, we were talking about this earlier, and the ladies that do these in Mexico make it seem so easy. And my guys were struggling to make these. I'm like, guys, it's really simple. You're going to get better at it as you make more. I mean, and it's what it is, right? It's practice. So I use wax paper. So if, you know, I pull the layer off, that wax paper, I flip it, I pull it off again.
Okay.
And this is the one that because it'll peel off the wax paper easier, okay? In case you're wondering the flipping that I'm doing. The only thing I'm going to admit to right now is I forgot the sliced garlic.
I didn't notice, and
I know. I saw it a little while ago. I said, "Darn it!"
Nobody would have known.
Okay. Well, it's going to be delicious because, I mean, we have blue corn, we have some beautiful mushrooms.
The salsa macha, the mole. I tasted it with just cheese in it, and it was fantastic. So
I know. Stone ground. There's nothing like beautiful stone ground corn. Okay, and this is just shredded Oaxaca, right? You know, I think that the one thing when you're making these quesadillas is the thickness of your tortilla. The thinner, the better.
Okay.
You know, because not that it's the better, but sometimes I think we tend to make them too thick. So, you know, I think, I know that, you know, where we go. We use about 1.5 ounces per, and that gives us a nice quesadilla. These probably are just a hair smaller, but just a little bit of cheese, okay? And then, but I mean, look at the beautiful color of the blue corn, and just a few mushrooms, okay?
Oh my gosh.
And then they fold nice and easy. And then we'll take these to the fryer. And these are original quesadillas, right? Not the folded tortillas that we're used to. So if you want a real quesadilla, you got to come to the Botanero, our fruteria, to have some, right? So let's take these over to the fryer. And then while I'm there, I'm going to have to make the hoja santa is a garnish that we use for our salmon dish, right? So I'm going to fry a little piece of hoja santa as well. All right, so we'll sear our salmon.
Okay.
We're going to fry our quesadillas. They're going to put them right on this when we get done. So they drain here like a little drying pan.
And you're using corn oil, you said, to fry?
We use corn oil for almost all of our frying, okay? It is, vegetable oil is fine.
Yeah.
You have, soybean oil. I mean, there's, I think those oils are fine. You could, I've seen people make these on comales, right?
Okay.
A flat comal, because some people may not want to deep fry. It doesn't cook up as nicely.
I was going to say,
yeah, it does.
I'm going to fry
You're
them
going to have
in my
to
house.
make them a lot flatter, right, for them to fry properly or to cook properly on a comal. But you could cook it on a flat comal. You shape them a little differently. Yeah, you would have to shape them a little differently. All right, so, okay. And now we just have to sear our salmon. How are we doing on time?
You have plenty of time. Don't even worry about it. You haven't gone over yet. You're okay.
Oh, are you? I haven't?
No, you're doing great.
Okay, good. All right, I got a little salt, a little pepper on our salmon. You need a good hot pan. That's the only way you're going to get a beautiful color on this salmon, with a good hot pan. So let's get to a smoking point. All right, we have our quesadillas that are frying here beautifully. Okay, let's see.
And you mentioned, are you going to cook this salmon to mid-rare? How are you going to?
Mid-rare is a great, I think, a great doneness, right? I think that sometimes we have to, depending on what you're using, in other words, this salmon is nice and, the way I cut it, it's nice and thick.
Yes.
But if you don't have that thickness, then you're going to have to really be careful. In other words, but medium rare to medium is no more than medium. Yeah, because you really don't want it cooked more than medium. Especially if you're buying a salmon that is of that high quality.
Yes.
Right? That's the point, right? It's like a sashimi grade fish, so you don't want to overcook that at all, or you don't want to fully cook it. All right, so we'll go to, we'll give it a couple minutes on that side, and then we will get ready. Hoja Santa, if you can get Hoja Santa, this is, you drop this in the fryer or in your oil, and then we garnish it with a little. You know what it is? It's the aromatics.
Yes.
The aromatics of this leaf are beautiful because they complement, in my opinion, those aromatics that are in the Jarabe. That Hoja Santa it marries so well with that. So, plus I have a forest of it at my house.
That you stole from Liberty Bar.
Don't tell Dwight.
You borrowed it.
He's like, Chef, you should have asked. Anyway, so we got a nice, beautiful sear there. We have our empanadas. Okay, I pinched it there, but I'll hide it so nobody sees it. Just like that. This will be just a couple minutes. All right.
It takes no time to cook that salmon.
Oh, it's quick. It's quick. It was at room temp, right? I had it out of the fridge for a little while, so, it cooks quick. You have to have everything ready. If you don't have a pan ready, your skillets or your everything, it can overcook on you really easy. Okay? So, because we're going to cook it medium rare today. All right, so let's go and let's plate this up. We'll move over here. I'm going to put our Hoja Santa here. It's just the garnish, okay? We have our salmon.
We have a question from Virginia, and I'm going to mispronounce this word. It's acuyo, A-C-U-Y-O.
Well, acuyo is the local name for Hoja Santa.
Okay, all right.
Yes, so no, that is correct. Somebody knows their Hoja Santa.
Virginia, she's on it. And I didn't butcher that word too terribly.
No, acuyo, yes. It's, that's the way I know it in Mexico, is acuyo.
Okay. Okay.
But they call it hoja santa here. You know, I mean, man, it's, you know, I mean, things have different names. I mean, there are certain dishes that in Mexico that, you know, you cross the border and it changes the name, right? It's a pellizcada, it's a sope, you know, depending on where you are, you know, it's the name changes, right? So this is our mole. Okay, these are these plates are our signature plates at Fruteria, right? It's all our china is hand painted, but those little dots are part of our brand at Fruteria. Okay, so we're gonna put our salmon.
I'm gonna brag to all my friends about that time that Chef Johnny Hernandez cooked me dinner.
So we put our salmon. We have a little bit of the jarabe, right? Okay.
Oh.
And then we're gonna put
that's so bad.
a little hoja santa garnish. Okay. And this is like, when you taste it together, oh, it's so good. So a little bit of pistachio, you know, just a couple little dots of it here and there so you can get one in every bite. So that's the salmon. So then this is our quesadillas. I almost said empanadas, huh? So our quesadillas, so our salsa macha. Let me taste this, make sure it has enough salt. It could have a little more heat. It could have a little more heat, but it's, you know, it is an easy, like I said, it was the árbol, right? The árbol is what typically will heat up the Mexican version, or for us, we could use piquín.
Okay.
Piquín would be a great local chili to use, and then, you know, a little bit of acidity and brightness with our pickled onions.
The colors are absolutely phenomenal.
Aren't they beautiful? So yeah, so there you have it. These are two of our most popular dishes at our new botanero. So, man, what do you think?
First off, this has been so wonderful for me personally, but we've had so many comments and so many questions and so many like wonderful things about what you're doing in your restaurants and what you've done for San Antonio that we couldn't tell you all of them because we'd never get through the class. People love it, and I'm just...
Food is what I love, and hospitality is a gene, right? You know, we try to develop that in our team and our employees, and that's the that's the work culture that we try to establish and nurture, right? So we're going to continue to do what we love, and hopefully, we take food to places that we get invited to, like we've been fortunate to recently, and it's exciting when you can continue to do what you enjoy the most. And it doesn't seem like work, right?
Right, so, and it definitely shows in how you do it and the things that you do in all of your restaurants. So thank you so much for joining us.
Gracias. And everyone out there who's been watching, come to our botanero and you're going to enjoy our quesadillas. We don't always have blue corn, but I know we have blue corn right now. We cooked some up yesterday and today, and then our salmon right now in our mole, the pistachio pineapple mole, which they work like magic together. So, provecho. Thank you all very much. Gracias.
Thank you so much for coming. And just so everybody knows, this has been recorded, so we will have this available for other people to watch, and in case you missed something, and if you want some more of those wonderful tips from Chef Johnny. Thanks again. And for the other classes that we have, you can always go to hb.com/classes, and I believe the class coming up is an Oktoberfest class, so we're going to do some scratch-made pretzels. Thank you so much again for coming. This was so wonderful.
Thank you. Have a good night.